The Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga, Liga. For years, it's been a battle trying to figure out which one is the best. Some believe it's the Premier League, others argue it's La Liga. The rest, they're tired of the same old story. So when it comes down to it, which league really is the best? What's the issue with the top two leagues now that makes them unstable, and what are the stereotypes associated with each league that are not completely true? The 2025-26 season so far has been a big eye-opener, especially for the debate between the top two leagues in the system. See guys, if we'd done this video last season, or even the season before that, hands down it would have been La Liga. Except this season, Spanish teams can't quite catch a break in Europe's Premier Club competition. Premier League teams have won 8 out of 9 matches against La Liga clubs this season. And as crazy as this is, the video isn't about these two alone. 3 other leagues deserve to be in the conversation too. To really find out which one is the best, we'll give the merits and demerits of each league as we progress, before a general comparison and debunking a couple of myths to find out the winner ultimately. There's no better place to start than the Premier League. It just makes sense. The argument for the Premier League? They've got the best collection of the most valuable clubs in the world under one league system. Compared to the other leagues, for example, it's a top 3 of Real Madrid, Barca and Atleti in Spain, PSG, Marseille and possibly Lyon when they're on it, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. Serie A could be the only league that could rival the Premier League in terms of this statement, but they're really stop-start. Just think about it like this. The Premier League has a traditional top 6 that basically fight for Champions League qualification of something to 4 to 5 spots, meaning one big club is always going to miss out. That traditional top 6 itself consists of Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea and Spurs. And then you've got teams like Newcastle United, who've qualified for Champions League football in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and Aston Villa, who played Champions League football the previous campaign. That's 2 teams outside the top 6 challenging the existing order, and we've not even covered the rest. That's probably one of the biggest factors in the league, the one that makes it stand out the most. It's the fact that in the Premier League, from top to bottom, every team has quality players who you believe should be playing for a top club. We already know about the quality of the top 6. But think of teams like Brighton, for example. They've become a talent factory for some of the best clubs in the world without really challenging for much other than occasional Europa League or Conference League football. You could say the same with every other team. Teams like Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Fulham and West Ham. They're all currently in the bottom half of the league, and they've got players who you see on their rosters and can argue they should be playing higher up. The other factor with the Premier League is the global appeal, the commercialization aspect. It's not just the most valuable league in Europe's top 5, it's also the most watched league too. An estimated 10 to 11 billion people watched the Premier League last season. That's almost 5 times more than Spain's La Liga and the German Bundesliga, with 2.7 billion views each. Simply put, you can survive watching a mid-table Premier League game. No offense to the rest, but unless you're a die-hard fan, it would seem odd. But odd doesn't necessarily translate to boring, and we will get to that soon, because if there's one major demerit of the Premier League now, it's what it's turning into: boring. It almost sounds shocking to say this. The most watched league in the world isn't interesting. But then again, it's not entirely wrong. It's this now. Arsenal, as good as they are, wouldn't exactly excite you for 90 minutes. They've transitioned from becoming an exciting side under Mikel Arteta at the start to becoming a more efficient team now, knowing how to get results. Manchester City have always been Manchester City, passing to create openings. Liverpool used to be different, then Arne Slot came around, and right now, after winning the league, they're a mess. Spurs can't seem to get a grip on how they want to play. Manchester United don't have in-betweens. When they're good, they're really good. When they're not, they're dreadful. The point is that the football in the Premier League is almost becoming robotic. You have a select group of top teams who know that once they come against teams that don't have as much quality against them, they'll sit in a low block, and in the end, it almost becomes a case of watching a training session. Attack versus defense. But it's time now to shift focus away from the Premier League and head over to Spain. La Liga, the home of arguably the 2 best clubs in the world, Barcelona and Real Madrid. Just like we did with the Premier League, it's time to look at possible reasons why La Liga could be the best league in Europe's top 5, and the answers aren't exactly far-fetched. But just before we talk about what the answers are, be sure to hit that subscribe button to Futbol Historia if you haven't yet for more videos like this. Success! Before Chelsea's win against Real Betis in the Europa Conference League in the middle of the year, Spanish teams had gone 27 out of 27 unbeaten in the finals they played in since 2002. This is still mind-blowing. This metric includes both the Champions League and the Europa League. It's simple. La Liga argues that when they finally get to the stage where each league has its best representatives from the league standings of the previous year under one competition, they almost always win. But there's another reason why La Liga could claim the throne to being the best. You've got to understand this one. We mentioned the Premier League and how they've got players stacked across almost every team in the division. In La Liga's case, while it might not exactly be equally spread across, the claim is that they've got the cream of the crop in terms of the best players in the world playing in Spain. Once you see it like this and understand it, you can't really argue with it. Real Madrid, for example, Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Thibaut Courtois, Trent Alexander-Arnold, all in one team? All are arguably the best players in the world in their positions. Barcelona, Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, Pedri, Frankie de Jong, Alejandro Balde, and the same with Real Madrid. The players we just mentioned are arguably the best in the world in their positions. It's why no matter how exciting the Premier League is on a large scale, the entire planet always tunes in for El Clasico. The two best players of the last decade fought largely on Spanish turf. You just can't beat that. So what's the demerit with La Liga then? This isn't necessarily about the football or the quality of it. There's such a huge gap between how much teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid earn, and then Atletico Madrid, and then the rest of the league. It showed how money was spent across this summer's transfer window. English Premier League clubs splashed over £3 billion on new signings, whereas La Liga clubs spent a total of €592 million. That's even lower than what Italian Serie A clubs spent, with over €1 billion, and the German Bundesliga with €739 million. The situation got really tense financially in Spain. Clubs like Getafe, for example, had to sell their best players in Cristantes Uche just to stay within La Liga laws. Barcelona had to cut costs and lower levers just to also stay within La Liga laws. But maybe in the grand context of the league, it really isn't that surprising. At the start of the century, over 20 La Liga clubs were declared bankrupt. Even the big teams, Barca and Real Madrid, got hit hard financially. It's why, even today, you tend to see more concerts and non-football events in Spanish stadiums than anywhere else. Real Madrid and the newly renovated Bernabeu have already played host to an NFL game. City rivals Atletico Madrid's Wanda Metropolitana is expected to host 10 Bad Bunny concerts. Stadium ticket prices have increased. They're basically trying to diversify to get more sources of income. Now we're heading to France, the home of the defending European champions, Liga. There's a stereotype that comes with French football. You see, guys, for years it's been this, that as good as Liga is, it's always going to be a development league. We talk about this when talking about stereotypes, but in terms of the league itself, what makes Liga potentially the best league in the world? Well, for starters, it's home of the European champions. PSG owned European football last season. The first time a French club became champions of Europe for the first time since Marseille in 1993. Beyond this, Liga is home to some of the most exciting talents on the planet. For context, they're the youngest league in Europe's top 5, with an average age of 25.9 years old. And these aren't just young players. These are the next big things. The likes of Desiree Doué, Joao Neves, Warren Zaire-Emery, Ayoub Bouadi, Matisse Amugo, and Juma Ba are some of the best talents to either break or about to break mainstream play in France. The demerits? Well, it's changing. But for a considerable while now, French football has had two big problems. The first used to be now French Liga. For context, 10 years ago, all managers in the league, except for then AS Monaco manager Claudio Ranieri, were French. That's 17 out of 18 French managers in one system. It didn't really make for much excitement, especially when these teams managed to enter European competitions. The second is a bit more complicated. It's TV revenue, but not just TV revenue. See guys, TV revenue ultimately comes down to having a product that people want to watch. A sellable league that promises excitement. For years, because of how not diverse Liga was, no one really bothered to watch much outside France. The general assumption was just how good the league was at developing players. It's much improved now. As of recording this, 55% of managers in Liga are French. Managers like Luis Enrique with PSG, Roberto De Zerbi with Marseille, and Liam Rosenio with Strasbourg bring a different tactical identity to Liga and have now made the league more interesting. French football is on the up. It has been for a couple of years now. Throw it back to when PSG signed Messi and had both Messi, Neymar and Mbappe playing in the same league. But now it's time to head over to Italy, where the Italian top flight is facing some pretty tough issues now. Serie A, just as we've done with every other league up to this point. What makes Serie A potentially the best league in Europe? It's going to be hard saying this, especially after Inter Milan's 5-0 thumping against PSG in the Champions League final of this year. But when it comes to the overall competitiveness of the teams playing in the league, Serie A is unpredictable. It's chaos. This image was from match day 10 in Serie A a couple of weeks back. It was the same thing last season. Napoli and Inter Milan took the fight for the league title to the last week of the season. In fact, since Juventus last won Serie A in 2021, there have been 3 different winners in the last 5 years. And this season we could see a 4th, because as of recording this, it's AS Roma who are on the top of the league after 12 games, with a 2-point lead over second place Milan. It's the volatile nature of Serie A. It makes for a good show. The standings you see this week might not be the same the following week. It's always changing right from top to bottom. The other part that makes Serie A potentially the best league in the world now is how they've performed in European competitions in recent years. Throw it back to 2022-23 season. Inter Milan, AS Roma and Fiorentina all made it to the finals of the Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League. People laughed when they lost, but as a league, they were out to make a point. The 2023-24 campaign, Atalanta faced a Bayer Leverkusen team that was unbeaten domestically and in Europe in the final of the Europa League. Ademola Lookman scored a hat-trick to win the competition for Atalanta. Inter got to a second Champions League final in 3 years before getting thumped by PSG. But the point here is that since 2023, Italian teams have been in the finals of at least one European competition consecutively to date. Impressive. So what are the demerits of Serie A then? Well, particularly this season, it's almost becoming a snooze fest. 3 out of 4 matches in the first week of November ended in 0-0 draws. The crazy part is that it wasn't the first time it happened this season. Some even go as far as saying it's match fixing. Others believed it's just the overall quality of the players in the league. Either way, it's not exactly ideal. And this leads to the second point. The actual quality of the players in Serie A has dipped. Now, this is no respect to anyone watching this who either supports a league or a club in Serie A, and no disrespect to any of the players as well. But compared to Europe's top 5, the big names aren't exactly playing in Italy anymore. Which brings us to the last league on the list, Germany, the Bundesliga. What makes the Bundesliga potentially the best league in Europe's top 5 system? You can think of the Bundesliga as the people's club. The league has a unique 50+1 rule, which means each club must be majority owned by the public. It means in the end, fan decisions will always be respected. But that this happens doesn't mean the league is restricted to little in terms of money coming in or resources. The Bundesliga generated the second most revenue in Europe's top 5 leagues, only behind the Premier League last season. That money isn't just going to the clubs, it comes right down to the leagues. While they don't necessarily spend heavily on player acquisitions, there's a lot of investment in the league. There are approximately 346 youth development centres in Germany for young talents and players across the globe, far more than anywhere else. When you look at the teams in the Bundesliga, yes, there's Bayern and their sphere of dominance, but with the rise of teams like Bayer Leverkusen, Borussia Dortmund always being in and around the picture, it's still a high-quality league. Volume of chances and attacking sequences as well. A typical Bundesliga average scoreline? From match day 1 to match day 11, as of recording this, there has only been one match day where the Bundesliga failed to record a game week with one match having at least 5 or more goals. Breaking this down, it means out of the 12 game weeks, 11 game weeks have seen at least one or more teams score at least 5 goals or more. It happened in 3 different matches from match day 1 to 4 consecutively. The quality in the league is insane as well. Harry Kane, Jamal Musiala, Joshua Kimmich, Michael Olise, Alejandro Grimaldo. But even mentioning these names already shows a big problem with the Bundesliga. The first demerit of German football is the Bayern effect. It's the fact that because of how financially strong Bayern Munich are, even in a system where each team is controlled largely by the public, they're in a position where they can afford to buy the best players from the league, even if they're direct rivals. We've seen it in the past, and it's still happening. The other factor with the Bundesliga that also affects Bayern is that most of the top names in the league are concentrated on a select number of clubs: Bayern, Leverkusen, Dortmund, RB Leipzig. No disrespect to the other clubs, but it's usually these guys, and then other clubs acting as feeder teams. Right, so now we've talked about each league, it's time to deal with some of the stereotypes to ultimately find out which one is the best.
La Liga, they try to play the game. They try to build up the game from behind, and they really, even if they're not the level of the top team, they will try to play. Premier League, England, it's high pace. It's front and back. So even if you're a high-level technical player, if you cannot manage the pace, you will not handle even with your technique. So that's pace. In Italy, it's very tactical. It's very studied, it's tactical. More important to defend than to attack. It's very difficult because when you come and play over in Serie A as a striker, and when you have a team that not only but focus a lot on defending, it's not easy for the striker. But when you succeed, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, so how true is this statement from Zlatan? Well, it's partly true. Some La Liga teams do try to play out from the back, but the reason La Liga can't be ranked as the team with the most control and build-up play, Getafe. Think of Getafe under Jose Bordalas as the Burnley and Sean Dyche of Spanish football. It's negative, it's long balls, it's Route 1 stuff, but it ultimately affects the idea of La Liga as a possession-based league, or playing out from the back. To this metrical stereotype, the league actually plays out from the back the most is Serie A. They average 27.5% long goal kicks, the least of any of the top 5. It's still the same even when they've got the ball. True, Spanish midfielders are always so technically gifted, and it's not even debatable. But in terms of actual ball control and how they keep the ball, it's Liga that averages the lowest amount of long balls and the highest passing accuracy in Europe's top 5 leagues with 84%. There's another one from Zlatan.
In Italy, it's very tactical. It's very studied, it's tactical. More important to defend than to attack. It's very difficult because when you come and play over in Serie A as a striker, and when you have a team that not only but focus a lot on defending, is not easy for the striker. But when you succeed, it's a good feeling.
This time it's about Serie A. How defensively solid the focus is on Serie A. How true is this stereotype then? Well, partly. Yes, Serie A is known for producing solid defensive teams, but when it comes to interceptions and defensive solidity as a whole, it's Liga that tops the metrics. The French league averages the most interceptions per game and the most true tackles too. There's then another one, this time with German football. The Bundesliga is the best when it comes to producing the most young talents in Europe. How true is this stereotype? Again, partly true. Yes, the Bundesliga has produced some incredible young players over the years, but as we mentioned earlier, when it comes to the league where young talents are making a mark now, it's Liga. They don't just average the best young talents in the competition. According to data from CIES ranking, the top 8 most profitable academies in the world, 2 French clubs make the list. Olympique Lyon in 3rd with 370 million euros and AS Monaco in 6th with 325 million euros. In fact, there's no Bundesliga club in the top 8. You could also argue that Dortmund's model is to buy young players for cheap and develop them into heavy market buys, which would also be true. But then again, you can't argue with the data. Then bring in the Premier League. The general notion is that the Premier League is physical and fast, that if you're not fast enough, you won't succeed in English football. How true is this? Again, partly true. Yes, the Premier League is really back and forth football, but with the evolution of managers and systems in the game, there have been players in the Premier League who weren't exactly as fast or as strong and still managed to make their mark. Take players like David Silva or Santi Cazorla, Kevin De Bruyne, Juan Mata, Marcos Alonso. There's a list of players you could name in this category who all became smashing players playing under different systems and coaches. So with everything we've said, the data and stats, which is the best league in Europe's top 5? The answer? None. It's for one simple reason. Each league has its strengths and flaws. There's a reason why we have UEFA coefficients and they change and update yearly. The quality of a league might appeal to some and not to others. It just depends on the person watching and what they want out of the game. Different leagues, different systems. But throw it back to what happened in Serie A on the final match day last season, and it was madness. Click the next video to find out what the hell happened to Serie A.